Our friends at Austin Unconducted have a new show coming up here at KMFA's Draylen Mason Music Studio. We are so thrilled to be joined in the studio today by a member of Austin Unconducted, Nick Montopoli. We're also visiting with Grammy winner Hilá Plitmann, good friend of mine, and with Brooks Kasson, who will be participating in this new Austin Unconducted show. Hilá, thank you for coming in today. All of you, thank you for coming in. But I have to ask you, you are the curator of this show. What is that like?
I got very lucky to be asked to somehow take on that mantle. I don't know if you remember, but when I moved to Austin nearly 2 years ago, and you and I had already become colleagues in a way, and then I reached out and you invited me to come to see a show by a group called Austin Unconducted. And it was the show with Sophie Mathieu. And I was so completely taken and mesmerized by what they were doing that I've been trying to make every show that I could, that my schedule allows. And was so moved by them that I reached out and said, please, let's do something together. So I have you to thank for that, my friend. Yeah.
Well, we're glad they did that. And
I am too.
So when you're curating a show like this, it means you're actually kind of choosing the music that will go with the program, but also the theme.
Yes. So what's interesting is they've worked with so many different creatives that I guess it probably manifests differently each time. Yeah. And thank goodness for that, because I had no idea. I just knew that there's the word curator associated, but I didn't know what that really meant. One thing that really kind of sat meaningfully within me was that I wanted to do something about the cycle of letting go of things. There's been a lot of that happening in my own life these days, these years, these decades. There's really great work that has been calling for me to be in that process. And I see it in the world around me, and I wanted to do something that shares with the audience the opportunity to do something like that. And thinking on that, what connected as well was the relationship one has, if they choose to have, with our dear moon. I've had a relationship with her all my life. It seems to get deeper and deeper. There's no werewolf in me yet, as far as I know, but it's close. And she's been a real teacher, you know. And when I spoke to these guys, because they're so wonderful and creative and willing, they said, yes, that sounds exciting. Now, what was beautiful in terms of the intuitive kind of kismet way of things was that when we met at Batch, kolaches and beer, to talk over just initial ideas of things, as they do regularly, we sat there in the table that they usually sit in, and we looked up, and right above on the wall there's these kind of prints of the moon. And we looked up and we said, okay, I guess this is it feels right. It feels very aligned. As to the actual curating, as in programming, that was completely collaborative. I had a few ideas. Many of them went into the dustbin, and it was really just us sitting together and throwing musical and contextual and symbolic ideas of what something like that can be in terms of a journey. And we're basically there.
Yeah. 99% of the way there.
As you know, as Nick was saying this morning as we were walking towards here, it's always really beautiful to see how things come together until they do, without really quite knowing what that means until it does. The beautiful thing is that that's kind of what my heart was wishing for anyway, is to have some collaborative experience, because that's what I love. Yeah. And this is definitely what this is.
Well, as you say, letting go is also something that is very prevalent in loss. Mm-hmm. And so this show has a little bit of an interactive component to it. And that's where Brooks comes in. Talk to me about that.
So this angel came into my life. I have lots of angels around me in my life. And this one came after I knew that they had wanted to do something together at some point. And it was because of Todd, because of my honey, she became the subject of one of his episodes for his podcast, for There's a Poem in That. And a friendship started threading its way. And there's a being here that is one of the least unafraid human beings that I've ever met to step into that conversation with publicly and personally and intimately, and it has been a real teacher for me, and an opening, a heart opening, to have a friendship where that's allowed and where you're able to kind of go through that process, which we do with every breath, right? Yeah. That's as in the Buddhist idea, we really do. We go through it with every breath. And having that experience with her as a friend, and then knowing that she was also quite an unusual energy worker. She does energy work that she can tell you about, but I thought how wonderful it would be to bring into this community that is already so open, and to the audience of this community that is just so wonderful and willing, an experience that includes that kind of guidance.
Yeah. Well, audiences to Austin Unconducted shows, I think, get a real treat every time they come. And they're always different. And so that curation process makes that experience very unique each time. Brooks, talk to us about what you plan to do with this show.
Thank you, Anthony. I was am honored to be a part of this, and thought at first it could be, I could offer a performance type thing, read a poem, read a story, whatever. And I thought, no. What I really prefer is an interactive piece. And I want and will be making an offer to those that come to the show to identify and engage personally in another level of the loss process, which we often call grieving. And grieving manifests itself in many different ways, as we all know. And what I'm intending to do is to offer that opportunity to each member that comes an opportunity to name a particular loss that they are familiar with. They might be personally and immediately engaged with that, or it might be a loss that happened years ago that they only occasionally think about. And it could be a person, it could be a job, it could be a relationship, it could be a pet, a favorite pet, a parent, any of those things. And all losses are linked together. And as we become more familiar with engaging in the process of feeling the loss and allowing that layer of anger, sadness, remorse, whatever it happens to be, engaged in that human feeling process of release, then we begin the healing process. And that is indeed what the symbolism of the moon is all about. It's the the full moon of expression, and then the waning moon. And I'm finding it extremely interesting that the nights that we're performing on the 9th and 10th of April are halfway, exactly halfway between the full moon and the new moon. So it is a waning moon, and we can use that lunar energy to help us release yet another level of grieving around a particular loss. And as we do that, then we become more whole and more human in our magnificent ability to expand. And so there will be that interactive piece that of an audience member, if they wish to, literally identifying the loss, and then I will help hold that as the music continues in bringing us all into another level of acceptance. And then at the end of the show, there will be a proper goodbye to that level of participation and that level of loss. And that's what I wanted to offer the audience, so that they can be a part of this whole performance.
And they'll do this by writing down that loss.
Writing the name of the loss, putting it into a fishbowl that is ceremoniously placed in the center of the musical offerings and of the audience holding the music. And so, yes, it will. And then there will be a ceremonially ending to what happens with the bowl. Ideally, of course, I would torch it. They're not going to let me do that here in the studio, however.
And the fire marshal might have something to say.
Yes, and so I will symbolically bury it.
Well, this sounds really healthy. And, for a couple of reasons. One, I think we don't think about loss as much as we think about other things, but loss is equally as important to everyone as is food or breathing, or it's just part of life. It's part of life. Everyone has loss. It's a common universal thing. One other thing I would say, though, is that music is healing. It's very healing.
Just one more thing is to say that there's such a joy that waits in the process of releasing. I know it sounds like a very heavy subject for a concert.
Right.
And yes, it is.
But there's a reward.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's the way through.
Yeah.
And I think that's why we all resonate.
And the reward is the freedom of emptiness and of not knowing
Torching
what's
those
coming
things.
next. Exactly. Once that's done.
Good. Please attempt this at home.
Yeah.
Well, let's talk about the music for this program.
In the curation process, I think one of the earliest decisions we made was how the evening was going to progress and where we would start and end, and relating that to the moon phases and light and darkness. And I think it's interesting that we settled on both beginning and ending in a dark place, but that darkness can mean two drastically different things depending on your own personal emotional progression. So we've picked Schubert Death in the Maiden, which is most well known as being a string quartet, but the song that the string quartet is based on is a beautiful song. It's very short, but it represents those two viewpoints, essentially, from someone who is having trouble accepting their own mortality, essentially, to a separate character, maybe death, maybe another side of their mind, is reassuring them that it will be fine, it will be peaceful, you can rest with me. And so those two, we've split the song in two parts, and those parts begin and end the show. And me and Camille Schiess, who's also arranging for the show, we've arranged transitions into and out of this material to kind of blend it with the rest of the show, which includes a number of different songs and a few, pillars. I would consider the Viet Quang piece, fantastic string orchestra piece, which is kind of the Austin Unconducted feature, and then Hilá's song, The Reckoning, which is very personal and absolutely gorgeous. And we've done a specific, unique to Austin Unconducted and unique to this show arrangement, which features the orchestra, references other parts of the program, and so I consider that to be the centerpiece. And then a gorgeous work by Julia Perry, which is almost hymn-like, so that is connected to the earlier part of the Schubert. Then a number of songs and you're singing in at least 3 languages.
Song, it's called Song of Nostalgia, Iknokuikatl, that is just, it's the sweetest thing I've ever heard, and I'm so glad we're doing it. There's Sting's Sister Moon, which will be sung also with my dear friend Seth Mitchell, who's a local incredible actor and singer. And what else?
Duke Ellington's Sophisticated Lady.
Thank you.
An originally in Invoke arrangement, expanded for full string orchestra.
And as you know, for those who have heard, when he says arranged, the way their artistic team, and he and Camille particularly this time, are the ones that have really devoted their talent and their time. What they create for this ensemble it's effervescent and magical in ways that are hard to describe until you're there in the room. For my song, The Reckoning, which started off years ago as a very simple song with piano, what he's done now to it, it's given it those layers. There's all the phases of the moon are in it now. It's pretty amazing. Yeah.
All right. Well, this sounds like a really fantastic show. Great experience for the audience and for you all, performers.
Absolutely.
Tell us again the dates.
April 9 and 10. I believe that's a Thursday and a Friday.
Tickets go to austinunconducted.org. Thank you, Nick. Thank you, Hilá. Thank you, Brooks.